Hello, my friends. How are you getting on? I hope you're having a lovely week. If you're not having a lovely week, I hope this video makes it slightly better for you. I hope that the episode of Strange New Worlds was well received and enjoyed, because I know that I did. Oh, I have some things to say. Before I jump into any of that, I just want to take a second to say thank you so much. I see you all liking, I see you sharing, I see you subscribing. Yes, you. I see you. You're awesome. Really appreciate, because every second that you give us your support, it's helping this channel grow. You've seen the direct impact of what you've done on this channel. You've seen Doug Drexler on this channel. You've seen Dave Blass on this channel, and there are many more on the way. And that is because of the support that you show. So thank you so much. Please, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and let's see what big, massive barriers we can smash down now in 2022. But for right now, what we're going to do is go through all of the ups and downs for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 1, Episode 6. Before even going into it, can you believe we're already halfway through this season? Sad face. Now, quite aptly, our first up for this week is the entire opening section of this episode, for several reasons. One is I am loving the return of the captain's log at the start of the episode. I hadn't realized, if you take so many episodes of The Next Generation particularly, and of course the original series, and you know, they've all done it. It's a little bit of exposition, it's a little bit of setting the scene, and it helps, instead of jumping straight into the action, just gives us a little bit of a second to kind of step in. Strange New Worlds has been wonderful for that. We are continuing with the episodic nature of this season without it being too disconnected as well. Pike's captain's log, to warm us into the episode, gives us the backstory. We know we've been in this system before without it being, hey, do you remember that time I did that thing with those people? Which I really appreciate. When we then discover that there is a shuttle in trouble being attacked by some big bully, or should I say little bully, again, wonderful. You have this moment of that was teased in the trailer when Alora is going to beam onto the Enterprise and Pike gets all flustered, and it's all a bit of a meet cute, and they've met before, and you know, we love that kind of thing. But just even before that, I love just a little quip that Pike gets away with when the ship is trying to fire at the Enterprise, and I mean, it basically, you know, I don't think it even scratches the paint. And Pike says, it's always the little dog that has the most to prove. And yes, how often have we seen that in Star Trek, and of course in real life? There's many different names for it, but basically when one feels the need to prove their superior valor, or basically who's got the biggest in the playground, by throwing a dig. And that is what this scene is set up to show. It also helps to set up just how technologically advanced the Enterprise is over these people, because what we've seen in recent times with Star Trek is we've seen a lot of people more powerful than the Federation. We've seen a lot of people who are stronger than Starfleet. Sometimes it's nice to be reminded that no, I mean, in 2259, the Federation was pretty advanced. Now, there is advancements to come, and that is something that is touched on in this episode. There was never a question of whether the ship was in danger. That's never even hinted at in this episode. And I really appreciate that. So the entire opening scene, setting up the scene as where we are, Pike's captain's log, the introduction of Alora, and of course, the Enterprise has got the biggest nacelles in the playground. Love that opening scene. I'm gonna go straight to a down, because this is something I both want to get out of the way, but something that I really think bears mention. From the first moment of the word ascension, I knew this kid was destined for bad. This was not gonna go well. And for me personally, I didn't get it in a way of that it was intentionally trying to set up that, oh, I think this could go badly. No, I think it was a twist that was given away within the first few seconds. The caginess of the characters around him, but there is ways of playing in fact, Alora plays the caginess very well, whereas Gamal, and I will talk about Gamal as the episode goes on, but I thought it was a little bit poorly handled in the beginning of the episode, to the fact that it completely gave away not so much the ending per se, but where the plot was progressing. And that to me, unfortunately, made me go, oh, I don't really get any sense of discovery in this episode. I didn't really get a sense of, oh, that was something I didn't see coming, or what a twist. And that to me, it bears mention, because it does then affect how I enjoyed the rest of the episode overall. When we come to the end of the episode, I will discuss that itself actually separately, which is where I'll discuss Gamal again. But in the beginning, I wish it hadn't been so obvious what way it was going to go, because I felt that could have been a bit more of a gut punch than we actually got in the episode. So unfortunately, it bears mention, and it is worth, unfortunately, I do feel it is worth getting it down for this episode. However, more positively, let's go to an up. Let's talk about Pike and Alora in this episode. First of all, they're both excellent, but together I think it really, really works. So you have this sense of returning flame from the past, a little bit like the Discovery episode, if memory serves, and we see Vina again. Alora is sort of teased to be, obviously not as important as Vina in terms of how we know she affects Pike's fate directly, but certainly there was, certainly a flirtation in the past that escalates into a physical relationship in this episode. We learn that Alora is keeping things from Pike. I also, strange enough, I get a genuine sense from her. I really feel that she means it when she says to Pike, you can stay with us on this planet. Their interplay, it's very, very good, because there's no real moment of, oh, you're the villain, oh my goodness, because she doesn't play it. She's not, in her eyes, she's not a villain. And there's no mustache twirling or cape twitching or anything of that. It feels very, very genuine between the two of them, to the point where I understand Pike's feeling of betrayal. And I understand that she feels she hasn't betrayed him. It was a really well played plot. You could argue that Pike's naivete and, everything is perfect view of the universe, even though, of course, there's discussions of darkness, are a bit, kind of Boy Scout. They're a bit misty-eyed. They're a bit, kind of, oh, Chris, that's nice and all, but the universe doesn't really work that way. You kind of get the sense of Alora's like, of the two of us, who's deceiving themselves here? They are absolutely wonderful together. So their entire relationship in this episode, from initial to reveal to ending, I thought was excellent. I thought it was really, really good. And in fact, because of the way the episode ends, I don't see us getting Alora again. But I felt, even if it's just the one episode, I think she is one of the stronger characters of this season. Sorry, quick up, Pike's arms. We're gonna go with an up that's gonna lead into a down, all right? The up, Uhura is on her rotation still, and now she's moved to security. So La'an is her supervisor. Overall, yes, I really like the way La'an is supporting Uhura. That's an up for me. When Uhura uncovers information, La'an says, no, you present it to Pike. You did the work. You discovered this. You deserve the credit. And I really appreciate that. In my mind, that is the sign of a good manager. Quite frankly, it's not taking credit for yourself. It's going, maybe it was teamwork that led us to that, but it was your efforts, therefore you deserve to present it. And I really, really appreciated that. I do have to, however, down, because I didn't think it was part of training. I thought it was just, unfortunately, a poorly written line. When Uhura begins to reveal the linguistic discoveries that she has made about the language of Prospect 7, La'an responds with, oh, you did the bare minimum I asked you to. And that, even though she has been, she's been on Uhura now for the whole episode, that almost felt personal. That didn't feel like management style. That felt like you were kind of just being a dick, La'an. To the point where, that's my Trellium down of the episode. It took me out of the scene, because I just kind of went, La'an, shut up, will you? That was how I viscerally reacted to that line. Uhura has done everything you've asked her to do, and done everything that has been laid in front, and yet you've done the bare minimum. I know, again, the argument can be made that this is just part of La'an's management style, but because we saw so much of her management style, it was hard-ass, but it was good. That to me felt like a completely unnecessary line, I'm afraid. So that, to me, boom, Trellium down this week. And you know what? I have another down. And it's to do with Pike telling anyone who moves slowly enough about his accident. Now, yes, that is a slight exaggeration, but again now we talk about this idea of knowing what's coming in the future and of course not knowing what's coming in the future. And Pike chooses this moment to tell Alora, oh yeah, by the way, I'm boned in the future. You know, she does, there is this chat of, because obviously there's a theme of, you know, medical advancement and medical power in this. Yes, I understand it totally, it plays on Pike's mind, and I will say, it's not playing as much of a role in this season as I feared it might. So that is good. I don't want to be indelicate, but my version of pillow talk doesn't necessarily talk about how my face is going to melt in 10 years. Oh, do you still find me attractive? Again, perhaps that's being very, very harsh, and perhaps there's somebody typing right now that says, actually, Sean, I beg to differ. Do you remember that time? And we'll talk in the DMs. That to me, it stood out again because it's kind of making, to me, it makes Pike feel a little bit self-pitying, even though I think they're trying to present it as the opposite. They're trying to present it like, I'm aware of my future and I'm still okay and I'm still going to do my job. But the bringing it up again and again and again is, yeah, it's kind of defeating the purpose. So for me, unfortunately, it was a down. And potentially, if it turns up again as just a kind of a throwaway line of dialogue, it's potentially going to be a down again. So heads up, Stranger Worlds. Now, all of this doom and gloom up the planet. Magellan is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. We've got so many buildings in the sky. Actually, hold on. Buildings in the sky. Now, you keep that up right there, but right now, we have to go live to Canon Watch. Hello Sean, and thank you for that introduction. Yes, at Canon Watch this week, we need to address the glaring Stratos in the room. That is correct. We are looking at the planet Magellan, we are seeing Cloud City, and we are waiting for that. They're gonna say it. Oh, ain't none of y'all gonna mention the fact that this is the Cloudminders? This is Stratos? This is directly lifted from the original series, and yet not one person mentions. I even thought there might be a little bit of a throwaway reference, possibly in the Prospect 7, possibly in the Magellan name itself. Nope, they have just completely renamed and reused Stratos. So, from Canon Watch, I will say, you think you may get away with these things, but we are watching. We know that Magellan has just been painted over the name of the planet Ardana. Back to you in the studio. Thank you very much, Sean. Bit harsh. Come on, I mean, you're allowed to have planets that are like other planets. Come on, give them a break. Sorry about him, he gets really up in a bunch sometimes about canon. But hey, he's the only one that does. Nobody else worries about canon, and that's what's important. Continuing on that up is the fact that it is beautifully realised, the planet of Magellan, and especially because what of course they couldn't do in the original series and even in the remastered version, which is much nicer when they're depicting the planet of Stratos, is this idea of scale and the fact that yes, there are different bits of this planet, of this city all around the place. You really do get this sense of scale in this episode. You see, particularly when the guards are running away, you know, you're running on these platforms, you're running on these walkways. The way we're looking at it is you're looking down at the planet's surface. You're looking up at other buildings as well. It kind of, do you know what it reminds me of? Almost a little bit of like a 3D chess set. So, you know, you've got this main building which is stunning. It's like a town hall. And around it, you're in the sky. I remember actually, if we think all the way back to one of the first teasers, and there was that shot, now it turned out to be from the pilot, which was the Enterprise, you know, kind of appearing in the sky over that planet. And yet it feels like almost a combination of that world and this world together with the idea of mixing things in the sky. I just thought, like, again, sometimes I belabor the point of just how gorgeous this series is, but it's bloody gorgeous. And you know me, you know how I react to nice shots of panning over the ship. I react, quite frankly, in a way that needs a therapist. But we get lovely shots of that here. And there's particularly, actually, as well as how gorgeous the planet is, there is that, I think it's in the opening scene, where we see the ship that is or isn't attacking the other ship. You know, we look up and, you know, kind of like you see, oh, the start of the deflector dish, we're continuing up the deflector dish. Oh, the Enterprise is big. You know, you really get that sense of scale. So this is actually, you know, what is this point actually about? How beautiful the planet is, how well they've realized the scale of the planet as well. Just bloody how well they've done it all, if I'm honest. Yes. Very, very nice. This is going to be an up, and I want to be very careful about how I phrase this. they kill the kid. My problem with the beginning of the episode was that we saw at least a variation of the twist coming a mile off. Right, that was, to me, it was not a twist. I was pleasantly surprised by Gamal's actions. You know, at the start you just think, oh, he's a bit of a, zealot, if you like. He's, kind of, don't touch the chosen one, or don't touch the first servant. We're just gonna, no, you can't. I'm only his father, and biologically speaking only, kind of, he is a child of the world. His obstinance as the episode goes on reveals this deep internal anguish and, this attempt to save his son. That did work as a twist for me. That did. What didn't work as a twist for me, of course, was that he was going to need saving. I was like, yeah, of course. It actually reminds me very, very much, before I continue with this point, it reminds me very, very much of that episode of Stargate SG-1, where Jack O'Neill travels to a planet. He, befriends a super smart young woman who, at the end, is robbed of all of her experiences and her mind because each of the nanites inside her that were giving her the information and the smarts that she had were then disseminated throughout the entire population. And I thought that's how this was going to go as well. And there is a version of that. The first servant, he ascends to the throne, which means he is quite literally plugged into a throne. By the end, we get a close-up, we get, those tubules, bit like the Borg assimilation tubules, they impact into his flesh, and we see that happen. It stays on it. The thing that succeeds about this storyline is that, obviously the act is terrible, it's horrendous that this poor child is now going to suffer until he dies. Now, if the body of the previous child is going to go, it won't be long. He will be a child when he dies. In classic Star Trek fashion, you have Alora and Pike face each other. And Alora, it's chilling. She says, yes, the suffering of one child allows the rest of our civilization to exist. Can you honestly answer that no child suffers so that the Federation may flourish? And of course, Pike has no answer to that, because the honest answer is, of course he can't say that. What she then says is that, now we know that the first servant will suffer, and what we choose to do is not look away. We all share in responsibility, and we all share in the pain. It's a very, very heavy point that the end of this episode makes, and very, very classic Trek style. That, to quote Ambassador Spock, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and of course, Kirk, or the one. Do we then say that what the people from Magellan have done is the right thing to do? I mean, I suppose nobody can say that, of course, but was it the wrong thing to do? Put all of the suffering on one person so that the rest may flourish? Pike doesn't have an answer. He does say, I will tell Starfleet, I will report you, to which she says, we're not a Federation world. You can tell them if you want to. I mean, there's nothing stopping you. It was a surprisingly dark, introspective ending to this episode. Overall, I would have said that the episode was, kind of light to the point of, it ran the risk of being kind of filler, but then no, that got blown away then toward the end. So the ending of this episode is one of the strongest endings to an episode that I've seen in a long time. It asks questions for which there are no easy answers. It was a triumph in storytelling, and unfortunately built off the suffering of this young man. It's pure Trek is what it is, and it was hard to watch, but it was excellent. Now, right, let's attempt to cheer up a little bit, and let's head straight over to Cetacean Observations. Now, funnily enough, okay, so this is actually, it belongs in this section, but it's not technically an Easter egg, is that this script in 2022 is based on an unused script for the original series written by Gene Roddenberry. This idea of, using this child as basically a battery to plug into the planet. You can see where elements of this have turned up in Star Trek throughout the years. But yes, this actually goes all the way back to the earliest days, and I thought it bears mentioning. Now, of course, we have the reference to a Rigelian tiger right toward the end, or start of this episode, I should say. Of course, the Rigel planets have been there all the way back since the Cage. The Rigelians themselves turned up in Star Trek Enterprise. I will understand if you think I'm reaching with this one. So we have the Magellan system. system, the planet of Magellan. Now, initially I thought Ferdinand Magellan, Portuguese discoverer, kind of great, yeah, that's exactly who this is. But then I had a thought, could this be a reference to Majel Barrett? I've seen no proof that it could be, but we know that this is a series that features 2 of her characters and none of her. We have number 1, we have Christine Chappell, both of whom are in this episode. I just thought potentially this could be a way of slipping in a little reference to her. Potentially not. I could get a message in a few minutes from Akiva Goldsman going, Sean, will you stop coming up with nonsense, will you? But I thought bears mentioning. There is an Easter egg to a deleted scene in the Kelvin universe. And again, you're going, wait, what? And it's Samuel Kirk's scene. It's played off as a joke. He stands in front of Uhura and he's talking about La'an. He says, make sure you say to La'an, kind of give you the credit you're due. And La'an stands up behind him and says, you were going to say what to me? And he goes, oh, I'm conflict averse. And he smiles and steps away. Okay, bit of a nothing scene, nice to see him. This, in my mind, is a reference to the deleted scene that features George Samuel Kirk Jr. in Star Trek 2009. Now, we see him renamed as Johnny in the scene because when James Kirk is driving the Corvette away, we drive straight past this hitchhiking child. That's actually George Samuel Kirk. It's revealed in a deleted scene. In an expanded version, it's shown that he was running away from his uncle's farm because his uncle was basically a bit of a bastard. And rather than taking him on, he chose to leave. That, you see, we don't have an awful lot of scenes with Samuel Kirk to work from. So I thought that, to me, was a little way of referencing the fact that in any reality, Samuel Kirk would rather take the safer road and not jump in where fools dare to tread. I think in 2009 it works because then you see James Kirk driving past at 100 miles an hour because the 2 brothers couldn't be more different. I think that's a really subtle and a really excellent reference in this episode to the difference in the 2 brothers. We get a reference to Enterprise as well when talking about medical interventions and the Federation's policy on not sharing medical technology. Because of course, if we go back to the infamous episode Dear Doctor, where Starfleet, in the form of Archer, basically said, sorry, all people gonna die, because natural evolution have led them in that direction. There was, of course, that was kind of basically sworn into law after that, and it's now in General Order 1 or the Prime Directive. And of course, that is referenced here when you have M'Benga and Gamal are talking about how potentially they might be able to share ideas. Well, at this point, it's like, no, we don't do that, and I believe your Federation has the same rules, which of course it does. I do like how that story evolves. Still not entirely sold on the fact that M'Benga's keeping his daughter in the transporter. We've talked about that in previous episodes, but I do like that there's a little hint of hope at the end of this episode for that. But yes, in that scene is a reference to Dear Doctor. Mugatan breathing stones. I'm going to pass on that one. I've seen Lower Decks. I don't need to go too near the Mugatu. Thanks very much. And the last observation I have for you is that the actual chair that the first servant is plugged into in the end, to me, bears a striking visual resemblance to the original series episode Whom Gods Destroy and the rehabilitation chair on the penal colony of Elba 2. Now this is the one that, it was supposed to basically make you better, and Garth of Izar has corrupted it so that it causes pain. In a way, that is symbolic of what this chair is. It makes the entire world better by causing pain. That is everything for our list today. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments below. If you think I missed anything, let me know in the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember that you can catch us over on Twitter at Trek Culture. You can catch myself on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at Sean Ferrick. Until you are with me again, please look after yourselves. Please look after your nearest and dearest. Be kind to yourself. Take time for yourself. Relax if you can. Do something you enjoy doing. Make sure that you live long and prosper. My friends in Ukraine, we think of you. We hope you're okay. Please stay strong. Know that our spirit is with you. You are all wonderful. Have a wonderful day. Make it so.